intervention, but nothing has transpired since then. So it's a very disappointing one indeed.
Now, as the digital landscape evolves with the dominance of social media platforms and the integration of artificial intelligence, that's AI, traditional news consumption is facing massive change. With elections coming up in May in our country and many others happening elsewhere in the world, the role of media in delivering factual information has never been more crucial. Yet, amid the deluge of content, ensuring authenticity and accuracy poses a significant challenge. Joining us live on this is the Deputy Chief Editor of Africa Check, Kaylee Clifford. Kaylee, good afternoon. Thank you for your time and thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, it's a big year for us, big election year. But we can't ignore the fact that, we live in a world of deepfakes, of AIs, and also the way people consume news nowadays is no longer like people used to. When, for example, in Johannesburg, you'll wait for the evening news on the radio, on television, or wait for tomorrow's morning newspaper to get the news. The world is completely different. But facts are facts. How do we ensure as a media that we stay true to that?
Thanks, Stan. So we at Africa Check encourage the practice of fact-checking, and this is important all the time, but especially so during elections, because at election time, voters are making a decision about their future, about who they want to govern the country. And this decision is often based on personal preference or ideology, but it is also based on the information that political parties share. So they have a responsibility to not mislead the public, but the media also has a responsibility to check what politicians are saying and not simply to act as a loud hailer and simply amplify false information. And then, of course, the public has a role to play as well in taking care not to share false information.
Yeah, it's a question of rather be accurate than first, is it?
Yes, and I mean, I know journalists work with very tight deadlines, but it comes down to, reporting whether what was said was accurate and not just what was said. This is not easy or quick work. I know this. We, for example, are currently fact-checking the political manifestos of a number of parties. And this is an exercise that takes us quite a while, but we want voters to know whether the information they're basing their decisions on are correct. So where there is room to slow down and fact check, we should definitely do that.
Yeah, with the multiplicity of channels, I mean, even WhatsApp now has got channels. People are setting up channels. I see even some media organizations like eNCA who have a presence now on WhatsApp channels. So people as they move, so to make sure that everything is monitored is going to be a huge challenge for you, Kaylee, for us as mainstream media. Let's use that word broadly, not traditional media. What should be the biggest focus? What should we prioritize to ensure we deliver what you've just said?
So I think slowing down where possible. As I say, fact-checking before we simply report on what has happened or what has said. Difficult to do when you're working with tight deadlines. And of course, as you've pointed out, there are many different channels that need to be monitored. So it's not just what political parties are saying, but it's also what's happening on social media and following the conversation there. That can be difficult to do on platforms like WhatsApp, where we don't actually know what kind of mis and disinformation is spreading. So you need to have your ears, everywhere, which can be tricky. One of the ways that we're actually addressing this is through a coalition of media organizations that is working together in the run-up to the election to combat misinformation. So it's partners across the print, the broadcast, the online space, who have come together and leveraging all of each other's strengths to reach more people with accurate information and to enable a fairer information environment ahead of the election. So we're really encouraging media organizations to join forces with us, and where perhaps they don't have the time or the resources to do some of this work, we're saying let's share the load.
Yeah, I mean, is it a fact that you can't trust the news all the news you get on social media platforms?
I think voters definitely need to think twice before sharing anything that they come across in the run-up to the election season. The information environment has become a lot more nuanced in that a lot of the claims we are seeing are not necessarily outright false, but they are hyper-partisan and quite polarizing. So if there is really one thing that voters should do, it is, to pause before sharing anything that you see. And in that pause, ask yourself a set of key questions. Where does this information come from? How is the information making me feel? And who might benefit from any action that I might take based on this information? Because a lot of the times, sorry, go ahead.
No, a lot of the times you're saying?
It's, disinformation is designed to play on our emotions and our biases. And we tend to agree with information that confirms our existing bias and our existing worldviews. So if we can take the emotion out of that and just pause before sharing, we can actually see a reduction in false information spreading.
You know what scares me, speaking for myself, Kaylee, is that a majority of all internet content increasingly is being synthetically produced. You've got the emergence of chatbots, which are driven by AI. And I mean, in a couple of years' time, what you download from the internet is not going to be generated at that moment by somebody, but will be pulled together from all kinds of sources and synthetically aggregated for you to read.
Yes, we have seen over the last year a lot of concern, and I think many would echo the concerns that you've raised around AI and AI-generated content. And the technology is being produced at a very rapid rate. It's getting better all the time, which will make it difficult for the layperson to know whether what they're looking at is something that is real or something that has been AI-generated. But developing just as quickly are tools to identify this. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, so you need to be aware what tools you can use to balance, to make sure you can decipher and also discern as a consumer and also as a media practitioner or the truth and from fiction and the facts from the fake stuff. Thank you very much for your time and insights. Kaylee Clifford, Africa Check's Deputy Chief Editor. More news shortly on today. I'm going to be talking to the Gift of the Givers Fund.